Hello, pursuers. Welcome to another episode of the Pursuit of Happiness podcast. I am your lovely podcast host, Naz Kazimi. We have so much to cover. I know I've been MIA. I am so sorry. I've just been so busy being back in Mexico and having to watch the shows and being back at the gym. No excuses, just being honest. But I am excited to get into today's episode. It's not quite a recap episode yet. The next episode, I promise, will be a recap episode. This episode is just going to be talking about some of the hot topics that are going on in the Bravo universe, because I think that they directly affect mental health. And I think that these are the things that I'm kind of not happy that it's happening, but I'm just gives me a point to talk about, because it kind of reflects into why I created the podcast in the first place and why I really am the way that I am, and it's all about mental health. Really, let's just get down to business. So first thing we're going to get into is obviously the Taylor Frankie Paul of it all. Okay. Again, last time that I came on, I don't think that the situation was quite as highlighted as it has been over the past couple days now. But I'm sure, like the rest of the world knows, and even if you don't watch The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, you probably do now, because it has just flown off the handle with what's going on in her life. And if you're kind of new, or you don't really watch that show, or you just don't, have no freaking idea what's going on, Taylor Frankie Paul is, I would say, how in the Bravo shows we say that, for example, Carlos King calls certain housewives the force multiplier because they bring people together. They're the one that will kind of unite the cast and make them all sit in one room together, because without that one person, there's no, I would say, show. But Taylor Frankie Paul 1000% carries that title. Okay. She is, when season 1 of the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives begins, it's Taylor Frankie Paul. You see her. She's the face of it. She already had 2 kids at that time. If I remember correctly, it's been a while since I watched it. And I don't know if you guys remember, me and my daughter were supposed to do a recap of season 3 and 4, but so much was going on in our lives. But I think now that, I have a little bit more time on my hands, I'll see if maybe I'll be able to watch it. It's just so tough for me to get invested in a new show, and not that it's new for me, but really get back into it, because after season 2 I had stopped watching it. I watched a couple of the episodes of season 3, but then so much has changed. The girls that I didn't like originally, which was Whitney, really the only one, she didn't come back, so that's kind of good. And Demi, she didn't come back, I saw for season 3. But Taylor Frankie Paul, I just fell in love with her from the moment that I saw her, season 1. Part of it was, they introduced her as being she leaks this scandal, so to speak, if you would even call it that, about her and one of her friends, Miranda, and their husbands. And part of it was that, the whole thing was that it was called quote unquote soft swinging. So they're Mormons and they have all these rules, but then they prove that the rumors about Mormons are correct, that they swing a lot. And people have so many different reasons for that. Part of it could be because they're so tightly wound up in their religion that, this is a way of them to break loose from it, to swing. And all the parties involved are obviously consenting adults, so why not? So from the get-go, this is our introduction to Taylor Frankie Paul. Now, love her or hate her, I ended up loving her because I found her to be the most honest, the most genuine, the most vulnerable of all the cast members. She was just so forthcoming and candid and honest and genuine about how she felt, and so many things beyond that happened. That was just the first episode. Shortly after that whole soft swinging scandal, and the other party, which was, we later find out, was Miranda and her now ex-husband Chase. They still hadn't been introduced to the show, Miranda comes into the show in season 2. So the first season didn't have Miranda in there. But it does show that Taylor had now divorced her husband over the scandal. It just, they just realized they weren't for each other, and she started dating a guy named Dakota. I don't even know where Dakota came from or how she met him. I think through TikTok or something. And she started dating Dakota, who's this guy that's sober and has kind of, and not to judge, just saying it's a fact about him, that had kind of struggled with his sobriety the whole time. Not on the show, but prior to coming onto the show. And she was just so relatable, and she's just very honest. I'm sure if you've seen some of the interviews that she's given now, which we'll get into about why she'd be giving interviews now in the first place, but she's just very honest, and you got to appreciate people like that in a world where everyone's trying to mask or cover up something. With that being said, I'm sure a lot of you out there that do know what's going on are going to be like, well, you know what? Well, she's covering up the whole domestic violence. And I really want to touch up on the whole domestic violence of it all because of multiple reasons. One, I have been involved. I grew up in a household with domestic violence, and I witnessed it firsthand from my parents. And then I ended up in relationships where it was just tons of domestic violence, tons. And not just at the hands of, my partner at that time, but I also was complicit in, the domestic violence. It's just, so fast forwarding to now, I guess she had gotten a spot on, I didn't watch against seasons 3 or 4, so she'd gotten a role to be the Bachelorette. On The Bachelorette, which is another reality series that I don't watch. I don't really watch the dating stuff. It's just not my thing. I'm so into people meeting organically, and some might call this organic. I call it fabricated for TV, but again, not my thing. My mom was a huge Bachelor fanatic, but then, just life and older and the way that TV's changed, it's hard for her to really figure out where to watch it and whatnot. But so Taylor Frankie Paul gets this opportunity to be the Bachelorette. And from what I've read, it's she was excited about it because she saw that Whitney went on Dancing with the Stars and Jen Affleck went on Dancing with the Stars, and the girls they're originally influencers. And Taylor Frankie Paul is the one that kind of recruited all of them. And they originally were a bunch of moms, Mormon moms from Salt Lake City, Utah, that would make TikToks. So that's where the name Mom Talk comes from, right? So originally they're influencers. Second, they're reality TV celebrities now at this point. So because they would get millions of views, and they're all the breadwinners as well in their relationships, because not only does their show make money, but their first job, which was being an influencer in Mom Talk on TikTok, and they're from the States, and if you're TikTok in the United States, you earn money from your views and the videos that go viral. And so they're the breadwinners of all their relationships, married or not. Not that their husbands don't work. From what I'm hearing, and I would have to get into season 3 and 4 to confirm this, but a lot of their husbands stopped working and they became stay-at-home dads so that the women themselves can continue their careers of making the money and being the breadwinners, which I think is fantastic. It's good to see the roles change like that, especially in a religion that you can't even freaking drink coffee, says this religion, but the women can be breadwinners. Okay, I like it. I like that there's certain things that they want to follow, and there's certain things that they don't. When it came to Taylor Frankie Paul, she still drank. She did the soft swinging. She makes the money. It's nice to kind of see, again, in a religion that's so tightly wound up, that they kind of challenge the norms of that religion. And I think that's every religion. I've met Catholics that have had abortions. I've met Catholics and Christians that have had sex before marriage. I've met Muslims that have had sex before marriage. I've met Muslims that still consume pork. I know Christians that consume pork, because pork is not supposed to be consumed in any religion. All I'm saying is that it's nice to see that their identity is not in their religion. And I think that when we ask so many people throughout our lives, oh, what religion were you born into, or what do you do, or what are you? And they'll be like, oh, I'm Christian. Like, okay, cool. But then when you hear someone say Mormon, it's like, oh my God, so blah, blah, blah. It's like they're more religious than everybody else. But how about all the Christians and Catholics that you've met that you didn't really care about? Same thing with Muslim. I find that when you ask people if they're Muslim, myself included, you're a lot more curious. Like, are they more by the book than other religions? And I don't think that's true at all now that although the curiosity still strikes when I hear Mormonism or Islam. I think that it's just that these are religions that we're not really exposed to as much. We've never met a Mormon until the Real House or the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives that don't follow the Mormon rules, because generally we hear that they're much more stricter. I never really meet Muslims that don't practice some part of their faith. Of course, traveling the world, my parents included, they're Muslim, but they're not like praying 5 times a day. And, they don't really do religious things. In fact, my parents moved to Canada, digress here, because they wanted us to kind of be free of religion and to figure it out for ourselves and not to be forced into a religion. So back to where this all started, it's interesting when you hear people say these religions and then you have a show like this where the women are the breadwinners and the men are the stay-at-home dads. It's good. I like it. So that was part of the draw to the show, So back to her getting onto The Bachelorette, she's getting opportunities, as are many of the other girls on the show. I believe Whitney and Jen were asked to dance, and they both are from the same show, and they were both on the same season. Part of it is because they're both dancers, and they both just had babies. So what a nice opportunity for both of them, to make money, to kind of lose the baby weight, to get back in there. It's great. It's great to see that from these shows. And they're notoriously known, Housewives, Vanderpump Rules, these Bravo shows in particular that I'm talking about, they get opportunities. Even the men and women that go on shows like The Bachelor, Bachelorette, they get opportunities beyond that. To a point that now people are questioning the authenticity of those shows and saying, like, do people even go on those shows now to eventually become some sort of an influencer and get more brand deals? How about Traders? You see all those people that were on the Traders. I saw Rob, who had just won on Traders. He has, and Maura too. They have so many brand deals. Now, mind you, they're both good-looking people, so there's where pretty privilege comes in. But they have all these brand deals. They're doing commercials. They're doing this and that. And how about the Real Housewives of New Jersey on pause? But like they're doing all these sort of shows and brand deals, and this is the nature of the beast. And so when an opportunity comes in front of you, you take it. You say yes more than you say no. So back to Taylor Frankie Paul, she took the opportunity to be on The Bachelorette. This is where it starts to get sticky and icky, because a lot of people question what was her motives for going on. She was still kind of back and forth with Dakota. So I'm going to kind of lay that aside. I'm just going to give you my thoughts on what I've seen so far and and without like really giving you background anymore, but just kind of getting into it. We've all had exes, whether we're men or women, and we've all gone back to our exes at one point, and we've all had exes where it's really hard to let go of it, whether there's domestic violence involved or not, whether there's a child involved or not. There's just this dynamic between us and our exes, unless you're extremely, extremely strong-willed. And I've even had people that I did date, not necessarily for a long time. I've had 3 very serious boyfriends in my life that I dated for more than a year. But unless you're extremely strong-willed, and again, for just some people that I dated here and there, it was easy. You can just cut them off and that's it. But for my 3 long-term exes, it was a lot harder. I think my first ex, I was quite young, and he was the one that had called it off. And I was kind of like, oh my God, why are you doing this? So I tried to go back a bunch of times, and of course, you sleep with them and whatnot, but then eventually that faded. My second long-term boyfriend, still part of my life. People still ask us why we just can't let each other go. It's not like we're sleeping together or doing anything, but he's just part of my life. Part of it could be that he was there when my daughter was born. And then the third ex, same thing, and that was the hardest for me, and that was my last very serious relationship. Part of my life, it was tumultuous. We went through a lot of things together. He's not part of my life, but after we had broken up, we did see each other a bunch. We tried, and it just didn't work. We're both kind of going off into our own thing. And then after that, do we keep in touch now? Yeah, a few years have gone by, and we still keep in touch. I keep in touch with most of my, well, 2 out of the 3 of my exes. But we've all been in situations where immediately after the quote unquote breakup, we are just so drawn to each other again. It's the familiarity. It's the closeness. It's the being able to be who you want. And for some, even I would say it's the chaoticness of it. It's all we know. It's all, and I'm going to speak for myself when I say we, it's all you're used to. I mean, me being in a household where there was a lot of domestic violence and being around that, and then growing up and then being around it in my own relationships, it's all I knew how to function. Anything else would be deemed as boring, you know? So I don't blame her at all. I don't. There's a video out there, okay, where it shows her throwing chairs, and this part of it kind of gets weird because that was a video. I mean, season 1 started with her being arrested with Dakota because of this incident that's now come to light that we're seeing the video of. So her being signed on to The Bachelorette, her being signed on for a few more seasons of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, people had to know that this had happened because the show, that's what the show was based on. Her and Dakota's relationship, her getting out of her marriage because of the soft swinging scandal, her now getting into all these domestic violence issues with Dakota, her not trusting Dakota, her deciding to walk away from Dakota, but her still kind of lingering on with Dakota, and vice versa, Dakota lingering on with her. So now that she's about to go on to The Bachelorette, and then these videos come to light, had me questioning, were there ulterior motives by Dakota? And it's weird because I usually always take the side of the guy, not in obviously domestic violence issues, but I'm prone to just be a little bit more softer with guys, maybe because I don't really know how they work and their intricacies. I grew up, or maybe because I did grow up with boys, and I grew up with my brother and cousins, and I grew up with a lot of boys around me, my dad, and so you're almost able to relate or understand them a little bit more. Or maybe I just didn't understand them at all, part of the reason that I did that. And I think that I'm a girl and I know how girls behave, and I'm like, oh, no, girls are like this. Trust me, she's a girl. I know what she's thinking. But when it came to this situation, I was like, why? Because I've been in situations before where I could never have anything fun. I would always start these jobs and my ex would be pissed off, and I would always do these things and he would destroy it for me. Now that I'm older, I realize that I played part of it too. In part of it too, I allowed him to do it. But it's like, why do we get these situations where we give them so much power that they're able to kind of hold this over our heads, right? So here she is about to go on The Bachelorette, and then these videos drop. It's like the timing of things. Really? How come the videos didn't drop back in 2023 when it happened? How come it's dropping now? And the sad part about the video that just dropped is that you can hear her daughter crying in the background. And then as I watch the videos more and I hear what people have their judgments on it, they're like, it's just weird that when her daughter starts crying, she kind of doesn't really acknowledge the kid. And it's like, but we don't know what happened. Like, maybe she did. Maybe somebody else came in and swooped the kid. I mean, as soon as you hug your child, the child doesn't stop crying, you know? But I feel like somebody was there and somebody came and grabbed her, because when you see her opening the door from the police cam, typically if there's children there, I don't care if you're in the US, Canada, what I know for sure is I take it pretty serious, and immediately there will be CPS there to take the kids away and whatnot. I know her kids weren't taken away in that instance. So I'm not defending that behavior at all. I'm just saying I've been there and I know how tunnel vision you can be because you are so affected by the situation that's going on at hand. Okay? I think that her not responding to her daughter immediately does not mean that she didn't care for her daughter. That's my opinion. I think it just means that she was on this quest in that moment, whether it was alcohol fueled or not, to really prove how angry she was, because she had no other way of, I'm sure if she had a much more healthier way of showing how angry she was, she would have done it. She absolutely would have done it, but she didn't. she didn't have any other way of showing her anger but that. And now that she's in it, it's hard to get out of it. It's hard to backtrack until you just let it all out. And that's why a lot of times I say don't let it get to that point, because once it gets to that point, it becomes so icky and muddy, and it's hard to get back to a place where you can sustain and have regular conversations. So that happens. And then a few days later, now we're hearing that The Bachelor got canceled. Was this the intention of the person that released the videos? I don't follow Dakota. I don't really care for him. I think that he was an opportunist, and, you know, all the props to him if that's what he was. But he came on a show where Taylor Frankie Paul was the star. Him and Jordan, who I'll get into later, who is Jesse's now estranged husband, try to create dad talk. Nobody wants dad talk. We watch it for mom talk. We don't watch it for freaking dad talk. Dad talk is not a thing. If you want dad talk to be a thing, go pitch it to a network and have them create a show for you and your fucking dads, okay? We don't want dad talk. We want to make sure that Taylor Frankie Paul is good, that Jesse finds love after all this. We want to know what the fuck happened to me. She doesn't need to come back. We just want to know. We want to make sure all the girls are good, because this is what we care about. This is why we started watching the show in the first place. So anyways, now Bachelor is canceled, and days later, now they're saying that there's actually another incident that happened, which was added on to the incidents that are still being assessed, I guess, by the courts. And so this is why they decided to cancel The Bachelorette, because of this. And then so much more backlash came out of that, because it's like, the opportunistic guys that went on the Bachelorette were hoping for brand deals and to become influencers, and now they're pissed and they want to sue whatever is it, NBC Universal, because now they won't be famous. Okay, the true intentions of everybody is really coming out. Okay, apparently she was engaged to the guy that she had chosen. I don't know why it would have been a bad thing to still air that. But I guess it wouldn't have reflected bad on Taylor Frankie Paul. She's just been honest about it the whole time. We all know what she's about. I think it really, really would have reflected bad on the network. So they canceled it because of themselves. They didn't cancel it because of her. Because if you know anything about her, she's an open book. So we already knew all these things about her. And then everyone's true colors come out, but hers remain the same, because she's just the same person that she was before The Bachelorette, before these videos came out. Nothing about her has changed. But the men that want to profit off of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, and they're pissed that they're not going to get aired, shame on you. That's disgusting, okay? You're not the star of the show anyways. And maybe, you know, the universe was like, you know what? You're in it for the wrong reason. So that's part of the reason why everything worked out the way that it did and it got canceled. Okay? I will always support Taylor Frankie Paul. Do I support the decisions that she made in that moment? Absolutely not. There was a child involved. It could have been worse. Yes, it could have. But let's look at the facts. It wasn't bad. It wasn't worse, is what I'm trying to say. Was it a bad situation? Absolutely. We should never fight in front of kids. I come from a domestic violence household. My parents fought in front of me. There were times I remember at a very young age, I was trying to stop my dad from hurting my mom, and my brother was still not born yet. He was still a baby. Or I think my mom was even pregnant at that time with him. But I remember those moments. And I was screaming in the background, trying to call 911. I remember my dad running into the room and taking the phone out of my hand because he didn't want me. I just didn't know what to do. So trust me when I say I've been there, and I know how it feels like. And even in my situation, it could have been way worse. But let's look at what's already happened. It's happened, and it shouldn't have happened that way. Okay? And yes, it could have been worse, but it wasn't. And now she has to deal with just what's happened at hand. Okay? And if there's another situation, we don't know. There's no facts that there were. Apparently, one of the girls on the show, because they've stopped filming as well, and when asked how come no one wants to film anymore, I think it was Layla, from what I'm hearing, allegedly has said that, well, there's more stuff that has come out. And so where the whole stopping the filming is based on the new stuff that's come out, not the old 2023 stuff, because we already knew that was there. We knew that there was a video floating around. We saw the video of her getting arrested. That's on the show, the police footage. But the footage that Dakota recently released wasn't. I will always support Taylor Frankie Paul. I am a girl. I am a woman. I've been in that situation. I know how you can react. She's made bad decisions, of course. I don't just not like people because they've made bad decisions. Look at all the people in your lives that have made bad decisions. Boyfriends, sons, kids, daughters, brothers, sisters, parents. And either we support them or we completely cut them off. I've done the whole cutting off thing. And I will do that for situations that I deem like maliciously aiming to hurt me. And I think that each individual situation is so, I want to say subjective. Like you can't put everything under one umbrella. As the situations pop up, you really assess them and you see, do I really want to continue with this friendship, relationship, workship, business deal, whatever. You base it at that time. As I've gone older, I realize that people make mistakes and that's part of life. And I think having a kid and a child who makes mistakes, but realizing that you love them despite the mistakes that they make, and it's just learning opportunities, it really opens your eyes up to, okay, and all these people on this planet are all kids of somebody's, and they're just going through life, making mistakes and learning from their mistakes. So will I always support her? Absolutely. Because if you're in a crisis and your family needs you, you might not agree with their decisions, but you'll always support them and be there for them and pray that the next time that this comes up, that they've learned from it and they make a better decision next time. So I'm always going to support her in that sense. I really hope that she takes this time to really reflect on what she's done. And another thing, I saw somebody post, look, she's posting online. And then someone's like, oh, look, she's posting, she's responding to the messages. And then she says, well, what am I supposed to be doing? Staring at a wall? It's true. What is she supposed to be doing? Okay, let's say she goes to counseling, court, attorneys, blah, blah. That's what, 4 or 5 hours of the day? What's she supposed to do for the next 20 hours of the fucking day? Just sit there? Come on, you guys. She's a human being. And again, if you know anything about her, she's one of the most honest human beings and vulnerable and really put her life out there. So I don't think she's doing anything that she's being fake about. She's doing exactly what she's known for. She's Taylor Frankie Paul. She's on the TikToks all the time. She's out and about in her sweats all the time. That's who she is. Nothing about her has changed. In fact, everything about her has remained the same. We're seeing the true colors of everybody else, like the Dakotas, like the fucking guys that want to be on The Bachelor that are pissed that they're not getting their moments, all of that. If any advice I can give her is like, maybe just ensure, and it's none of our business if you are or not, but that you're doing the steps right so these things don't keep on happening. Because after this big blowout, if things like this continue to happen, then it really shows that you really haven't learned your lesson, Taylor Frankie Paul. Like, we love you, I love you, but like, you really have to learn from this. But learning from it can take on different shapes and forms, and I'm not here to judge how she does it, but she will still have my support. I still want to see her on TV, and I want to see how she gets through this. She might not realize how much of an influence or impact that she has, but she does. And I'm just praying that she gets through this the best way that she can, and she learns from it, and that she frees herself from this fucking Dakota. I really do. And that's my opinion about it. Because I'm so fucking sick of people canceling other people because of shit that happens. Like, remember Rachel Levis from Vanderpump Rules canceling her? Really? She made a fucking mistake. People make mistakes. Pointing the finger at somebody else as if you've never made a mistake is just so, yeah. And I understand that we're watching these reality shows and it's like, part of the reason that they're up there, and I'll get into it with some of the other shows, but it's like, because it's an angle for us to kind of look at and to discuss, and they're putting it out there so that we can have discussions about this. And with the advent of social media becoming more predominant, it's so that we can have opinions and share opinions, and we build communities from that. Hell, some of my podcast episodes are just built on these Bravo shows and how they're so toxic, but I love it and I love talking about it because what else am I going to talk about? Well, am I actually going to go make friends like this and be in? No, hell no. But it's just interesting to see. So part of it is, yeah, they put their lives out there and it's going to get discussed. But to cancel someone for making a mistake rather than us watching it, how come it's okay for the housewives to have conflict resolution? They have conflict and they have fucking resolution. That's what we want from those shows. But any other fucking show, it's like, no, cancel? What, it has to have Real Housewives in the fucking title for it to be a conflict resolution type of show? But any other fucking show out there, like the... Mormon Wives, the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, or Vanderpump Rules, because there's no Real Housewives in its title, we have to cancel those people on those shows. Like, it just makes no sense to me. But I just want Taylor Frankie Paul to know that I always have her fucking back, okay? Because I've been there and I know how it feels. But I'm also praying to God that she figures out a way to control this and to really look at it herself. Beyond the TikToks, beyond answer to your fans, answer to the fucking haters, do whatever you need to do. But at the same time, there's a level above that and it's really working on you and not just sitting there and responding to people's messages, And I think that if in the future we see that she's really learned from this and she has put in the work, her fucking responding to people's messages and DMs is not going to really be an issue, But her exhibiting the same behavior after all of this and still being online and fucking spatting back at the haters, yeah, that's going to leave a bad taste in people's mouths. But people will forget. People forgot about the scandal. There's a new one out now, which we'll get into. It's just, people will forget. People move on. You're the shit now and you're making money off of your demise now, but in a few years, no. In a few days, no. People forget. And to elaborate a little bit more on all of the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, shortly after kind of this blew up, we saw that Jesse and Jordan were getting a divorce. And I guess from what I'm hearing, Jordan was the one that initiated the divorce, although they had both talked about it. Jesse had wanted the divorce, and they said that they would do it at the same time together, but she went away to do a lot of press for the show, and I think she was on the Call Her Daddy podcast with Alex Cooper. And while she was there, or prior to her going on, Jordan messages her and said, by the way, I filed. And now so many things are coming out about that marriage, because season 3 shows that when they had gone to Vanderpump Villa, all these shows are interconnected, but there was a guy on the show named Marciano. And with Marciano being on the show, he had first had a flirty relationship or possibly slept with Demi, and then moved on to Jesse. And Jordan was hanging that over Jesse's head, to shortly find out later that he was the one that kind of sees hookers and prostitutes and sex workers, and he loves the whole swinging thing, and he likes orgies and threesomes and all these kind of stuff. So, I mean, if this is not entertainment for our reality TV shows, what is, you guys? This is what we've come to, okay? Remember the days of, and I'm going to mention this because I've been watching it a lot lately. Me and my daughter started watching Housewives of New Jersey, and we just started season 3, and we're going to take a break at season 3 because this is when Melissa and Joe come in, and it's kind of not fun. They're treating Teresa not good. And if you really go into watching the show from innocent eyes, season 1 and 2, we loved her, and I still do love Teresa. She's one of my favorites, my all-time favorite housewife. But if you really go into to season 3 and you realize how she was in season 1 and 2, and then all of a sudden now her family's on, they treat her this way without having any background knowledge. I know that maybe there's 2 sides to a story, but I'm just saying, just observing, it's hard to watch. But then we become so used to the fighting, because now season 15, and they had to put it on pause. It's hard to go back to having such an innocent show. I'm curious to see how season 16 is going to play out on The Real Housewives of New Jersey, only because reality TV, especially of the Bravo franchise, has come to a point where if there's not conflict, then there's no conflict resolution. And without conflict and conflict resolution, there's no show. And the shows that don't have The Real Housewives in the title, they get really complicated. let's look at Vanderpump Rules, right? The whole scandal of it all. Now the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and I know it's not Bravo. Secret Lives of Mormon Wives not with Bravo. They're on Hulu, so completely separate network. But I'm just saying, like, it's interesting to see how we now crave this sort of dynamic. Look at how we watch The Real House of Beverly Hills. If there's no fighting, we call it a boring season. And then when there's too much fighting, we're like, get rid of this person, get rid of that person. We don't want her on. It sucks, blah, blah. It's like we have been so conditioned to think that fighting is the way to go on these shows. It's hard to take a step back from it. So yeah, the Taylor Frankie Paul of it all is interesting. I mean, the domestic violence is something new for the audience because we're so used to all these like cheating scandals. And now there's the whole Jesse and Jordan getting a divorce, but Jesse was potentially hooking up with Chase, and they were exchanging. And Chase, as we all know, is Miranda's ex-husband. Now, I really do like Miranda. She came on season 2. I think she's gotten a bit too lean, but she's great. I love her because she's got a deeper voice, kind of like me, and she's just really down to earth. It seems like, and she's got a good relationship with her baby's father, and she's not a big hoe prancing around, but she was part of the soft swinging scandal. So it's just interesting to see the evolution of the shows. And some start, and let's also not forget that this is their lives. Like legit, this is their real lives. So for us, we're looking at it from a show perspective. For the audience, we're like, holy wow, like I can't believe that these guys actually fight like this. But on the other side of it, like this is really their lives. And sometimes when I do watch these shows, I'm like, wow, like I thought my life was crazy and dramatic. Like I am nothing compared to these guys' lives. In fact, I think that I live in chaos, but when I watch these shows, I'm like, I actually live in I live in fucking peace. Like these shows create chaos. So it's just very interesting to see the evolution of all these reality shows and what we expect from them. And if they don't deliver, we hate them. Cancel. Get rid of. Da-da-da. But then on the other end of it, if it's what we ask for, then it becomes too boring. It's like, I think honestly, as the audience, we're the toxic ones, really. Honestly, we are. Just think about it. And I'm going to speak for myself here. I'm pretty sure most of the audience, we enjoy watching these kind of crazy dynamics. And we if we all stopped watching as an audience, these shows go out of business. They'd be canceled because they have no viewership. Similar to what they're saying about what happened to Miami, which sucks because Miami was one of my favorites. So it's hard for me to believe that they didn't have the ratings. But they're saying that, with no ratings, we have to put it on pause. Indefinite pause for now. So without an audience, these shows don't exist. So maybe we, as the audience, are the toxic ones? Anyways, speaking of more controversy, let's get into the Summer House controversy of it all. Another show that I've been watching from the beginning of time. I recap it as well. As we all know, Amanda and Kyle are not doing so well. And I'm not going to recap the show on here. I'm going to do it for the next episode. That'll be my recap episode. But it's interesting to see that in this last episode from last week, what had happened is Kyle had walked in on... because Amanda was outside talking to everybody. They'd just come back from having a good time. He walked in on her chatting with her housemates, because they're there for the weekend together. And then he goes up to her and he says, fuck you, and he walks away. And Amanda starts crying. And she hasn't cried in a long time, but she cried. And then she went up to... West went up to her in the washroom and was like, are you okay? Confronting her. She was bawling, and she said, yeah, I'm fine, blah, blah. Oh my God, so many things are coming out of that. Now people are saying, oh yeah, I heard them kissing. And it's like, okay, calm down. There was no kissing. We didn't hear any kissing. I think if there was kissing, production would have highlighted that so to make sure that we would have heard it, because they're in the business of creating drama out of nothing, But then West also goes up to Kyle. So before these allegations broke out, which now we know are true, we just assumed that West was being a good friend. But then as soon as that episode aired, it's funny because then all the allegations of seeing Amanda and West together started coming out. And then not only are they just coming out, but now people are going back a few years and like, oh yeah, I did see them together 2 years ago. I just didn't know that was her. So is it now because that people have seen them on screen together in like a environment where they're having a one-on-one and chatting with each other, that they're like, oh yeah, that was the girl that we saw West with? Because there's a kind of a celebrity gossip Instagram page called Demois, and she's been getting so many tips and pictures of West with a girl, and you can only see her from the back, so it's still alleged. You don't know for sure that's Amanda in those photos, although it could be because she dyed her hair darker, etc., etc. I initially thought that this was just a hoax. I'm like, this is just for the ratings. People are starting to believe this, so they're just running with it. Apparently, West was with a brunette and making out with her, and everyone's assuming that it's Amanda. Why would you do that to Sierra? Apparently, Paige and DeSerbo and Hannah Berner have not commented on this, although their last podcast episode, they were hinting, oh, have you seen the internet today? And I'm like, okay, they're not going to talk about it, but they allude like they're going to, and then they talk about something else. Oh, the Kit Kat truck got jacked up in Europe, or, it's like, just, you're supposed to be here for the girls, so maybe have a little bit of input. You don't always have to give out, and I love Giggly Squad, but it's all false information. Like, maybe in a time like this, actually stand up for the girls and give your opinion on what you think is going on. And, no, guys, please, no cyberbullying would be the first thing that I would say. So yesterday, apparently there was photos of Sierra in, I don't know, the meatpacking district in New York. I don't know what that means, but when eventually I move to New York, I will. Wink, wink, New York. Wait for me in 5 years. I'm going to be going back between La Paz and New York. You guys watch. Mark my words, podcast and pursuers. I'm throwing it out there in the universe. This is what I'm manifesting. Amanda Francis style. But apparently Sierra was seen like leaning against the wall, and someone was comforting her. An older gentleman, white gentleman, was comforting her. And I was like, can't be a producer on the show because there's no mic equipment around. And I doubt that she would just all of a sudden sit down. And they seem pretty comfortable. Like, I don't know if I would let someone come and like just put their hands on my knees while I'm folded up in a kind of fetal position crying to come up that close to me, especially someone I wouldn't know. That's too close to comfort. And not only that, how would someone feel so comfortable coming that close to me, not knowing me, but pictures were circulating of her in that position in New York after it was released that Amanda and West put out a statement saying that, we've seen the speculation. We are trying to process all of this right now. We can't deny that there's a connection. And once we're able to speak about it and articulate it into words, something along these lines, we will. And I was like, no, that can't be true, because Amanda was almost like the not villain this season, because people felt so bad for her being in this relationship with Kyle. People were gunning for her, and I see people still gunning for her, like saying things like, for example, let's just backtrack to Summer House just a little bit. Kyle always shitting on her for smoking weed, but yet he's out every night partying. He literally got a job in the club after she said, I don't want you out partying. Literally became a DJ so that he could be in the club. And not only is it not just his job, but it now has become his lifestyle. Like, he literally is at the club every fucking night, not just working and going home when the fucking lights go on, partying beyond that, going and hanging out with some of his fans and sleeping at their houses and drinking. It's one thing if it's just a job, because then you go home. I know many DJs that it's just their job. They're out until 3:30, 4 in the morning. They have wives, kids, but they're not drinking. As soon as the club shuts down, they pack up their equipment and they go home. They sleep. Okay? Kyle doesn't do that. But then he shits on her for smoking weed every night. The girl just wants to fucking chill at home, okay? She was almost like the superstar this season. And now this is coming out, and it's divided all the viewers. I have so many questions and opinions about this, because first of all, I know that Sierra kind of had feelings for West, and West was kind of trying to get back into her good graces. But then I knew, and this is why I don't like going onto their social medias and watching like other things other than just the show, because in real time, these shows are filmed, a year? Like, this is last year. I knew that West isn't dating Sierra, or else we would have known that by now. We would have seen it at BravoCon. We would have seen all this. We would have seen them together. I knew for a fact that they weren't together. And it's just coming out that actually he was dating a girl named Maya, and it's Meija, so it's Yugoslavian, so Maya or something like that. Along those lines, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name. And he'd been dating her for about a year, like seeing her for a year. And she just found out about Amanda. Okay. Now, like literally maybe 20 minutes ago, I had to put I had to pause this and I just had to go do something really quick. And I saw online, because, we're in that age where you just flick on your phone and you go online. I saw that there was a site that had interviewed Kyle. And they had said, and Kyle was talking to him. I don't know if he's not a journalist, a paparazzi or just someone that he knew, and was asking. Kyle literally was so honest, and this is what we want to see in real time. Kyle's like, I did talk to Amanda, and the guy's like, are you upset? He's like, I'm not upset for me. I'm worried for Amanda. She's not doing well. She's getting cyberbullied. And then Kyle even said, he's like, everyone's starting to find out that West had all these women on the go. And it's like, that's the truth that we want to see with this. So yes, there's conflict. Where's the resolution? This is what we need to be hearing from their cast now, because what will happen? Because the audience doesn't have anything to go on, they're going to form their own opinions. And once your own opinion is formed, like any other human being on earth, you stick to that opinion. It's hard to change what you think. So I'm kind of glad that I caught that in time, because that really makes me think. I knew that this was I knew that Amanda couldn't be that malicious. Okay, feelings developed for West. But that Maya girl that everyone's, it's a Maya girl that everyone's seeing, that West was seeing for years, she's also brunette. So could those have been, and maybe she had a little bit lighter hair before, like not as dark brunette. Could she have been the girl that people saw with West making out? And he seems to like brunettes. And by the way, Sierra wasn't dating him. So why is this like blowing up as big as Scandal? So this ties into what I was just saying earlier. This is what these reality shows, this is what us and his audience want. We want to have a villain and hate them. But when the shows become too boring, like the Beverly Hills of it all, and they're just going back and forth with Amanda Francis, if Amanda needs to go see a chiropractor for carrying the show on her back this season, it's so boring. And I'm guilty of it too, I've said it, because we're so used to seeing things like this play out. And now it's like, has this become the norm? Like, was Scandal just like the first of it? Is this a natural progression of people that are within each other's vicinity for a long period of time? Because West has maybe been there for 2 years, but Sierra's been there for a long time. Amanda's been there for a freaking long time. Kyle's been there for a long time. Lindsay and Carl went out, and they're still not as 1,000% good as, Lindsay still is harboring negative feelings towards Carl. So is this just a natural progression of when people hang out together? How many friends groups do you know that when someone breaks up with somebody else, let's say there's a guy and girl dating, the girl breaks up with the guy, one of her friends, maybe not immediate circle, maybe outer immediate circle, goes and dates the guy, and then they out the girl. Now she's not part of the crew anymore because she didn't follow girl code. I see it more often than none. I was the one growing up and being like, y'all dated? Shit, my baby's father, Mercedes' biological dad. I had met someone that had dated him, and she was telling me that her friend dated him first. I'm like, what? Y'all dated the same guy? Like, if this was Persians, someone would have died, Now, this was way before I came into the picture, so I couldn't get mad at her, nor did she know, and I knew that, we were part of each other's lives, and hey, I'm the one with the kid, his firstborn, so, But what I'm trying to say here is that, like, if I would never date one of my friend's exes and then think that it's going to be okay and we're going to all hang out in a friend group together, that is fucking weird to me. I'm Persian. Someone would die. Dying is a bit extreme. Someone would be hurt emotionally, not physically. I'm not inciting violence. Violence is wrong, friends. When you're in that situation, though, you can see how, I see it more often than none. And in fact, I'm starting to see it a lot more too in my own Persian community. And not that I have many Persian friends, but it happens. I had an uncle and aunt, and they were married. And then the uncle divorced the aunt, and he went and married the other aunt, which was by marriage my aunt. So my dad's brother was married to a lady, and my dad's sister was married to a lady. Their spouses divorced my uncle and aunt, and they married each other. And obviously my uncle and aunt can't marry each other because they're brother and sister, but their spouses got divorced from them and they married each other. Things like this happen. It's life. Would I allow it? Absolutely not. I'm still single and I'm 42 years old. So there's a reason why, you know? But also 6 degrees of separation. Vancouver is a very small city, and I've grown up in it since I was in grade 5. I'm 42. This is part of the reason why I moved away. I'm so sick of meeting somebody that dated someone that I knew or knows who I know. It doesn't work for me. I need someone brand new, out of the pool. No one's touched him before, and he doesn't know anybody either. And if I want that, that's my prerogative. I'm allowed to have that. And when I find it, I'll know. But this is part of the reason why it was okay for me to leave Vancouver, because I was like, my dream man doesn't live in Vancouver. That's for sure. Because Vancouver, if your dream man is from Vancouver, he's fucked at somebody that I know. But this is life. And this type of shit happens. Where I think it gets shitty, and I'm not trying to not defend Sierra, is the girl code of it all. But from what I heard, there was a heads up given to not only Kyle. Kyle said, and Sierra had said, in Des Moines, all these other blog websites say that they were given an opportunity, a heads up that there was going to be a statement coming out. So I guess all we can do at this point now, thank God for Kyle, although I didn't really like him this season. I loved that when he talked to that guy and he kind of put something out. It was nice for me to see that, because I kind of had like my doubts about this whole thing. I thought it was just for ratings, and I still think that it's just getting played out a little bit more for ratings. But then like things are coming out, like for example, after that I saw like Lindsay and Kristen Doty walking, and they're like Detective Doty and Sherlock Hubbard. Y'all are not you. If you guys are going to be detectives now, everyone already knows. What are you detecting? And why does Kristen Doty get involved in everything? Girl, go home. Who's going to be there for Amanda? Like, where is Amanda's friends? Who's checking in on Amanda? And then this is what bothered me the most. And I actually like Sheena, but Sheena says, I got a fresh set of nails ready to something. I don't want to misquote it, but allegedly to like hurt someone or... So are you now admitting that you had touched Raquel? Because you were pretty adamant that your nail just clipped her face. But now that there's another scandal sequel, now you're saying, oh, okay, now I got a fresh set of nails. To do what with those nails, Sheena? To use them as deadly weapons? To use them as weapons in general? Oh, grow up. You have a kid. I thought that you learned from your first mistake. After the whole thing happened with Raquel, she thought that she learned. Everyone. Lala herself too. I'm never going to go hard for a girl like that. That's just wrong. I would never do that. That affected people's mental health. I don't want that to be like that. I should have had an open mind to these kind of things. People make mistakes, but now it's happening again, and now everyone's icing out Amanda. And not that she doesn't have a part in this, but these are supposedly her friends. Has anyone checked in on her and made sure that she's okay? That she doesn't fucking regret what she's done? Maybe she's regretting this, but now it's just too late. I did see something cute that I thought was really, really cute, and it was Boston Rob saying, yeah, he had posted a picture with Sierra, and he's like, Team Sierra, and that was so cute. You know, he's not hurting anybody else's feelings, but he's just showing support. He's not inciting violence, or I don't know. That whole thing with Sheena really put a bad taste in my mouth, you know? Is this for ratings? We don't know. I'm excited to see the reunion, but again, I'm glad to see that thing that interview on the street that Kyle had, and him being really honest and candid. And that kind of makes me like him a little bit more again. Like maybe he was a little bit off during the season because it was in real time for them. But him saying things like, now that the season's playing out, I'm kind of looking at everything differently, but not bashing anyone, you know, not saying negative things. This is the Kyle that I loved and I fell in love with when I started watching Summer House. And this is why I continued watching Summer House for so many years. Because of that Kyle, because of that person, that person that he is. Not because of the Kyle that went up to Amanda and says, fuck you, in the middle of her just having a good time. But this Kyle that doesn't bash on his friends and can look at everything from a very neutral stance and kind of try to understand where everyone's coming from and not really jump to conclusions before getting all the facts first. This is the Kyle that I love. So although it wasn't a scene part of a Summer House, seeing that about him, honestly, I probably won't like him throughout the season, but I love him more just from seeing that, you know? And I just hope that he makes the right decision. And this is totally off digressing, but like get out of the fucking clubs. Yeah, I admire him so much because that guy can fucking party and go to sleep at 6 a.m. and still wake up at 10 a.m. and go for a jog. Like, does he ever sleep in? Like, how about his sleep? Like, he's always on the go. I can't operate. Even with medication, it's worse because I need the sleep. You know, it's like I admire him for that. I still think he's a bit of an addict, a functioning one at that. And I would say alcoholic, to be honest, because, you know, addict people can take it as like drugs, but, you know, alcohol is a drug. So, but I can't live that way. You know, I can't. So, I mean, we'll be updated on this. I really feel bad for him. I do feel bad for Sierra, but I feel like for Sierra, it's a little bit different because she has the backing of the audience in the world, whereas Amanda, I feel like, is in the same spot as Rachel was, even though it's not to that extreme. It's not like anyone was married or with each other for 10 years. Fuck, Wes had another girlfriend. So I just don't understand why is Amanda and Sierra, why they're pitted against each other. There's got to be something that we don't know. Hence why they're still hush-hush about it. But Amanda was already in a fragile state. And I'm not saying she was groomed by West. I was actually starting to like West. So far from what I see what I'm seeing about him on the show, I like him, but when I know he's done in real life, I hate him. Kyle, what I see on the show, I hate him, but when I just saw this video, love him. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're different characters than they are on the show, and that's for various reasons, just the circumstances, the people that they have to be around, the situations that they're put in, which I guess normally you won't be put in. So I think I heard once that they said that West is really performative. I can see that. I don't think he does it on purpose. I think just when there's the element and the environment of the cameras and certain people that are around him, he's different, you know? Like, he makes it seem like those people on the show are his main go-to, but like, where the fuck does this Maya girl come from? I thought you wanted Sierra. So part of it is a little bit inauthentic. Whereas I feel like Sierra, this is what I love about her, did put everything on the line, did say, I really do like West. I was in love with West. Talks about how, you know, interracial dating and how people are shitting on her. And now it's become a little bit more about that, and I get it. But maybe this will just help her confirm that there's a reason why she shouldn't be dating West in the first place. You know, all signs lead to nowhere, really. So this is just breaking. Like, this just broke literally yesterday where we got the confirmation. So I'm going to be kind of excited to see where this all leads. And with that being said, there's one more thing that I kind of want to cover. And, well, actually, speaking of the whole summer house thing, apparently now they're thinking of canceling it because there's a show coming out called The City, and The City was supposed to showcase their lives in the city because we only see them on the weekends in the summer, right? Which I think is fun too. But as they're getting older and they have families and they're developing their careers, it'd be nice to see it in The City as well. So I think The City showcased, and they've already filmed it. It's Lindsay, Kyle, Amanda, and supposedly Andrea that was on the show. That's what I gathered from it. This is allegedly, I can't confirm any of this. It's just what I've been hearing through the grapevine. But then they want to cancel Summer House in general, which I couldn't see why. But then, like, they always bring in new people. So why not just have Summer House with new people and maybe Kyle, because Kyle's a partier, and Carl, because Carl's not going to be on The City, but it's going to be nice to see how Carl kind of evolves too. And obviously you want follow-up to this. It's just like when people date on the internet and then, oh yeah, fuck that guy, I fucking hate him, we broke up, blah, blah. But then 3 weeks later, no explanation, but then they're in photos together again. It's like, wait a minute. You guys are following each other again. We want to know also the makeup. We don't just want to see the breakup. We want to see the makeup too. Come on. Like, if you're going to put it out there, show us, you know? And it would be nice to hear a statement from Hannah and Paige. It just would, because they're all in the women are in STEM type roles. So it'd just be nice to see what they have to say, although people are taking some of the things that they're saying and interpreting it into their own kind of narrative. Like Hannah posting all these things about karma and stuff, and because apparently her and Amanda had gone into a fight a few years ago. So I don't know if I want to lean into this being karma for someone, because Amanda was going through a fucking shitty season. And people might always say that I go for the underdog. She's not the underdog. She had a shitty fucking season. And heaven fucking forbid I don't think Amanda would have gone for West if Sierra was actually dating fucking West. There would be no opportunity for them to develop these feelings for each other. And do I believe Kyle when he's saying that he talked to Amanda and it seems like West had all these other women around, and unbeknownst to each other that, you know, Amanda didn't know that he had the Maya girl, and then Maya didn't know that he had Amanda. And, you know, when did all these feelings develop if you're dating someone for over a year? I think that if anybody, West has a lot of explaining to do. And we could tell he was kind of a fuckboy. I mean, you can't look that good and have all the girls oogle over you and then be with Sierra, be with her sexually, and then not be with her, okay? And then now all of a sudden, like, because all the girls were around you, you just didn't know how to handle that. The girls are not going to disappear. It's how you deal with it. And he's only been on the show now, 2-3 seasons? So it's just going to get more and more and more. So clearly he's suffering from too many choices syndrome, and he can't narrow it down. Okay. I'm just, again, disappointed to see all the girls that had said that, you know, they went too hard for Raquel, going out too hard for Amanda, when this isn't even kind of the same scenario. Talk about learning from your mistakes, because clearly some haven't, right? With that being said, let's quickly jump into the last piece of news that I want to talk about, and that was about how the New Jersey housewives are coming back. Yay! So we know for a fact that Melissa, Dolores, and Queen Teresa are back. Music to my fucking ears. Rhode Island starts also, I believe, tomorrow night. So I'm excited to watch that because I know Dolores is on there as well. And Rhode Island is just, I mean, another kind of, it's interesting how everyone's connected, but one of the girls on there, I believe her name was Ashley. She was on The Bachelor, and that's how she met her husband from The Bachelor. They were a couple that were matched on The Bachelor. Now they're married and they have kids. And she's been living in Rhode Island for now 5 years. So, and she also has a Bachelor podcast, I believe, with her husband or with somebody else, because she was on The Bachelor. So she's able to recap these episodes as she watches. So she was actually really excited about The Bachelorette coming on, but in light of everything with Taylor Frankie Paul, obviously that's not going to happen. In fact, now they're saying maybe Maura or even Miranda. Maura from Traders, but Miranda also from Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I think just like that episode of the Ultimate Girls Trip with Caroline Manzo and Brandi Glanville, we're not going to see this Bachelorette in the light of day at all. So, plus we already know who won, so it's kind of like, but anyways, interesting kind of full circle moment because she's going to be on Rhode Island and so is Dolores, which makes me think, like, how is New Jersey going to look? I've seen a potential cast, but I'm interested to see how that's going to play out because I feel like Rhode Island is a bit more family as well, and it's Italians, and it's, I mean, could we have 2 shows, but completely different families and the dynamics of it all? I mean, no 2 families or 2 shows will ever be alike, of course, but it's just interesting to see. Who we know for sure is not coming back is no Margaret. Thank you, Jesus. Definitely not Jen Aiden. I think Jackie had made a joke that she was asked to come back full time. I didn't see it. I don't really watch, like, I do follow Jackie, but I'm not really interested in like the after show things and like, like the after show, or for example, watching their social medias. Sometimes, like, if something is happening in their lives, it will pop up. I don't even need to go look for it. You'll just know of it. So that's why for example, when it was Audrey and Austin, I knew for a fact that they weren't dating anymore. So the show was being played out. I think I went and I searched it at the beginning just because I didn't want to misquote something when I do my recaps, but I knew for a fact that they weren't dating anymore. You could just see the trajectory of how the show is going, and you could see the way that it's not anywhere. You don't find it anywhere. It's not like it's The Bachelorette where they have to keep it a secret, you know? You could just see that nowhere were they talking about it. So they're obviously broken up. So when I'm watching the show, I didn't want to go search for any news. I just want to watch it as it was happening and then let it unfold as they're telling the story on the show, because real time is going to be different than airing time. And that's another thing that really bothers me about these shows. Like, why are we waiting so long to put them out? Because what's it called? Southern Charm was last year. Like, so much has probably happened in their lives since then. We want to see it. I'm seeing pictures. See, this is popping up. I'm seeing pictures of Austin and Craig and Sally all going out together now. Now, the reunion just passed, which I will get into in that recap episode. They were hating each other. They were yelling at each other. So like, what exactly is going on? And I'm seeing Whitner and Vanita in photos, and it's just like they wait too long, and then so now that the show's over, now I can watch the real time stuff, and now there's a gap between the reunion and what's going on now. And then the next time the show comes out, it's going to fill that gap, but then there's going to be another gap. Like, it's just too long of waiting periods where there's gaps in between, and that's kind of like bothering me. But anyways, back to all of the Housewives of New Jersey. It's going to be fun to see. Again, me and my daughter are doing a recap, and we're watching. We're kind of putting it on a halt for now because seasons 1 and 2 were so fun and eventful, to be honest. Not Danielle being the biggest fucking hypocrite on earth, saying that Joe Giudice was saying all these homophobic slurs, but yet hires these gangster, violent, criminal bodyguards that are her friends, and they're saying the same thing to Caroline Manzo's son at the Brownstone. I'm just so curious to know what Danielle was thinking when this was going on. And then when confronted by Caroline, she's like, I can't control what people say. I can't control what people think. Funny that you say that, because when it comes to the other girls, they can apparently control each other. But when it comes to you and your hired fake friend bodyguard, you can't control him. And then saying things like, oh, they're criminals and they do this and they do that. Yet you hired an ex-con who's now back in jail, who's associated with the mob and fucking the Hells Angels. Now, we don't care who the fuck he's associated with, but it's just funny that you're saying this to other people, but it's really you. So this just proves that projection is just so real. Anything that people say that you kind of question, you're like, whoa, what is she saying? This makes no sense. This is not me. It's probably something that they know. Because people will always say things or do things that are a reflection of their own perspective because they don't know anything else. For example, a doctor is going to talk about medical things. He's not going to talk about dentist things because he's speaking from his perspective that he knows in the medical field. You put a dentist in a situation, a dentist is going to speak things from an oral hygiene point of view, like, because he might not be as affluent in or educated or knowledgeable in the medical side of things. He's going to know it from an oral medical hygiene standpoint, Same thing from... What's another example that I could use? A barista working at Starbucks. Whatever you tell them about drinks, they're going to put it from a Starbucks point of view. Whereas if you're talking to a bartender's not going to be able to reflect on a Starbucks point of view. They're going to reflect it from a mixology, a bar drinks point of view. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what they know. So same thing in life. Like, people are always going to reflect based on what they know. Danielle said all these fucking things, but when you look back at it, it's based on what she only knew. So it was a projection. It was 1,000% a projection, My daughter loves the Manzos. We watched it. She loves them. I wanted her to kind of wait. We'll probably watch it more, in a couple months. We'll just kind of it was just a bit hectic, and she really loves Teresa, and she's like, I just don't like how they're treating Teresa. And I said, I was honest with her. I'm like, moving forward, everything changes for Teresa because now her family's on. She has issues with her family. Then they become friends again. Then her whole court thing comes up with Joe, and then she goes away for a year, and then Joe goes away. And then when Joe comes back, he gets deported, and she's not friends again with her family and Joe and Melissa. And then Louis gets into the picture, and Margaret's into the picture. Well, Margaret comes in the picture first, and then Louis comes into the picture. Then that whole thing goes down, and then it leads to a point where they went on the pause, right? So, and then her parents die as well. Then when she gets out of jail and Joe goes, then her mom dies. And then shortly after, her dad passes. So it's so Teresa focused. And I tell my daughter, I'm like, see how people say that this show, Teresa really gave her all? And not that nobody else did, but because she's been there from season 1, she really has. So it's nice to see that they're coming back. I just can't wait to see the trajectory of it. I think Gia Giudice, I know for a fact she just did an interview with her uncle and aunt. And one thing I can say about Gia is, even though there was a period where she wasn't talking to her uncle and aunt, she would always call them Zia, Melissa, and Zia's Joe. She never once said Joe and Melissa. And I think that's a form of respect, She's never once dropped saying that about them, but it's so nice to see them at a good place. And I knew that Melissa was really hurt by it. And obviously I knew Teresa was. Teresa wears her heart on her sleeve. But I knew Melissa was too, because the reactions that she would have to Teresa was so different than to other things in her life. And it's just because, of course, these are supposed to be sister-in-laws, like sisters, And I really stand by the fact that I think that when Melissa started dating Joe and seeing Joe and, things were getting serious, she already had sisters. So she didn't feel the need to, or she just didn't understand that maybe Teresa didn't. And that's why Teresa really wanted them to be close and always at her events, but then she was going to like her own family stuff. And then Teresa felt left out. Teresa's feelings are not Melissa's problem, but I just wish that if Melissa saw it from that point of view, she would also understand Teresa a little bit more. Because sometimes I find, and I love Teresa, she's my queen, but Teresa can be a bit stubborn to understand her own self. Whereas I feel like Melissa's smarter in that sense. Like she can kind of take a step back and understand it, And that's kind of why I do like Melissa, and I did like her, but towards the end, it was just a little bit too much. Like she was really like up the Margaret's ass, or vice versa. Margaret was up her ass, but regardless, past is in the past. I love the whole moving forward of it all. I did see something about all about TRH, their podcast, and something about saying that, they're leaking that Melissa was the one that was leaking stuff to them, but they denied it. They're like, what the hell? Why would we say this? We've moved past things with Melissa. So a lot of things are coming up now, as it would promotion for the show, maybe. Not that they're purposely doing it. I'm just saying, like, now that New Jersey's back in the headlines, obviously things are going to come out. This is the nature of the beast, you guys. Welcome to the reality TV world that we're living in at the moment. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. So with that being said, so much going on in that universe right now. I'm just hoping the best for everybody, in particular Taylor Frankie Paul, in particular Amanda, in particular Sierra. I'm really praying for their mental health at this time, and hoping that there's the best outcome for all these women, because, as a woman, support women. And all the men can go to hell. Anyways, with that being said, I will see you guys tomorrow for our recap episode. Thank you for tuning in, Pursuers. If you have anything to say or add to the conversation, please find me on my socials. It's all in the show notes. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share. You can find me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. Anywhere that you can get your podcast, you can find the podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. Love you, Pursuers. I will see you tomorrow.